Lobo, exploring the insane powers of DC's deadliest bounty hunter. Lobo's love for bounty and drinks is quite iconically associated with the character. This irreverent bounty hunter takes on the most dangerous and challenging missions across the galaxy and is best known for his anti-hero nature. Lobo has made appearances in various DC comic titles, as well as in video games and animated TV shows, cementing his status as a beloved and enduring character in the superhero culture. With Deadpool and Wolverine's R-rated action, it is of no doubt the next R-rated character should definitely be this hot-headed, arrogant Lobo. Despite his ruthless behavior, he has a sarcastic sense of humor and speaks directly to the reader, where he sometimes acknowledges that he is a fictional character. But trust me, he is so much more than just an anti-hero with anger issues. His powers are vast and deadly, and when combined with his crude personality, it is simply a blast for the readers. So in today's episode, we will be exploring all the abilities of this madman of a character in detail. But before we proceed, we have a very small request. If you like our content, do like this video and subscribe to our channel. And with that, let's get straight into the video. How did Lobo get his superpowers? Lobo is known to be one of the most powerful characters in the DC universe. He was gifted a Red Lantern ring, which made him stronger than ever. His origin story mostly varies through relaunches and reboots, but let's take a peek at his story from the pre-Crisis universe. Before the DC Comics storyline Crisis on Infinite Earths, Lobo was a Volorpian, a race of almost unkillable aliens. The Volorpians did not have the ability of natural death, so when their world got extremely overpopulated, they resorted to violence and chaos. A poison was designed to wipe out the Volorpians, but Lobo managed to survive and soon became the only one from his race. But on the other hand, it was disclosed in Lobo Volume 2, Issue 0, that Lobo was the one to be accountable for the annihilation of his own race, aka the Czarnians. This incident occurred after he unleashed a deadly epidemic of airborne insects that resembled scorpions, which led to a massive death rate among his people. Lobo's regenerative abilities allowed him to clone more of himself in order to survive in the vacuum of space. In a comic book named Green Lantern Brightest Day, Lobo appeared to be assisting Hal Jordan and his team against a villain called Atrocitus. But as the story went deeper, the readers were surprised by the fact that Atrocitus and Lobo were actually allies who initially teamed up. In exchange for Lobo's companionship and help, Atrocitus decided to give Lobo a Red Lantern ring as a token of appreciation. This ring has drastically enhanced Lobo's powers to an immense degree and was fueled by the emotion of hatred. Lobo's usage of the Red Lantern ring was vastly showcased in the comic book named Injustice 2, and it resulted in enlarging one of his body parts. Lobo had used it against Atrocitus in order to cause damage to him. The readers are left wondering about the extent of the damage Lobo could cause with a Red Lantern ring.
Who are you? Oh, I'm sorry. My card.
Some of Lobo's incredible physical abilities. We fans love Lobo for his over-the-top, no-holds-barred approach during combat, so let's take a look at some of his incredible physical abilities. Superhuman strength and courage. Lobo has incredible super strength that is almost unparalleled in the DC Comics universe. It made him such a powerful opponent that he was not at all hesitant to go against Superman. His power levels have varied throughout his history, but he has always remained a dominant force due to his immense strength. Despite being a powerful character, Lobo's unpredictable nature has resulted in various conflicts with Superman on several occasions, and it obviously resulted in many battles against the Man of Steel. Lobo holds the ability to lift and move objects that weigh several tons effortlessly, and he has been shown to be strong enough to break through solid metal and concrete barriers, so you can only imagine the strength he holds. Not just this, but his strength also extends to his physical attacks, allowing him to inflict massive damage on his opponents. He can punch through solid objects and even shatter bones with a single strike. Lobo's strength is so firm that he could easily knock his opponents several feet away with his attacks. His ability to stand up to an all-powerful being like Superman is impressive, and his superhuman strength plays the most crucial role when he stands up against the big blue superhero. Endurance like no other. In addition to his other superhuman strength, Lobo also holds incredible endurance and can fight without rest for a longer period of time. In Paramilitary Christmas Special, Lobo's endurance was seen when he engaged in a battle against Santa Claus. He took a severe beating but was able to continue the fight. In Lobo Volume 1, Targets, the character shockingly took on 8 assassins with various abilities and emerged victorious, which demonstrated his ability to bear extreme physical damage and challenges. Lobo proved himself capable of taking quite an amount of damage from some of the most powerful foes, including Devastator. Not to embarrass our Lobo, but he did get tossed into the sun after a brutal beatdown. Lobo's endurance is one of the most impressive abilities and contributes greatly to his reputation as an unstoppable force in the DC universe. Toon Force that we have seen in every cartoon ever. Lobo also possesses the Toon Force ability, which is an unusual power that allows him to manipulate the universe in a cartoonish way. This ability is commonly seen in cartoons, like when characters just fall off a cliff but return without a scratch? That is it! It's like nothing really happens even after a bullet penetrates through their body. Lobo applied this power to survive some of the most lethal attacks, such as a heavy punch by Superman. Pretty comical if you ask me. Not just a drunkard, but quite clever. Lobo demonstrated a keen ability to read his opponents and adapt to their fighting styles, using his intelligence to gain an advantage in battle. And no, he is not just a drunkard, but in fact, much more clever than you can imagine. He not only released the scorpion-like insect on his race, Lobo even developed it at the age of 17. He holds a firm grasp of over 17,897 languages and holds quite the expertise in the field of physics. He built a napalm bomb when he was only 5 years old, and most could barely draw around that time. This shows that Lobo is not just some hot-headed brute, but also has deep knowledge of advanced technology.
Say aloha, babe.
Heightened senses. Lobo has extraordinary senses that allow him to detect abnormalities beyond the range of a normal human being. His sense of smell goes to such an extent that he could track a scent across the galaxy. His vision and hearing are also enhanced, allowing him to see and hear things that are far away or outside of the normal range of human perception. Overall, Lobo's super senses give him a significant advantage in combat and enable him to track and hunt his targets with great efficiency. Apart from these, the character holds the ability to regenerate, which is also considered to be one of his greatest powers. According to the comics, he could regenerate from even a single remaining drop of blood and can heal himself completely from any physical wounds. Lobo does not need to eat or drink to survive and could sustain just fine in the vacuum of space, even without any protective gear. If you think that is all, you're wrong, because this bounty hunter will also be immune to all known poisons or toxins, making him nearly impossible to take down, even with chemical meat.
Fragger.
How could Lobo possess other bodies? The last of Sarnian's powers are vast, and his rivals have to have quite some strength to come face to face against it. His abilities do not just end with superhuman strength and endurance, he has another one-of-a-kind power. If Lobo's body gets damaged during an attack, he could just leave it till the damaged body heals itself. Lobo does return once it regenerates and returns to the original healed self. Furthermore, because his soul has been banished from heaven and hell, Lobo's death may leave his spirit floating around in temporal space. While in this state, Lobo cannot harm his physical opponents, but could still hold the ability to harm any other spirits. He can also willingly choose to possess a living body, allowing him to use the host's abilities and skills to his advantage. So you can only understand the frustration of Green Lantern, Superman, and even Batman, who could do nothing more than just continue to fight. Though they cannot eliminate Lobo's life, and superheroes simply do not have an option until Lobo is utterly bored and moves to another target. Lobo is a man of his word, and regardless of how hot-headed he has been seen to be sticking by his word. Some traits of the character often vary depending on the comic book series, the writer, or the drawer of that specific comic. Sometimes he could not lift a bus as effortlessly as he would knock the Man of Steel off of a building. His strength level may also be influenced by his rage and how intoxicated he was at the time. Ultimately, Lobo's power extent can be unpredictable, but one thing is certain, it is not something to be taken lightly. What is Lobo's most unique power? Lobo's immortality comes from his banishment from heaven and hell, as well as his being the last surviving member of his race, Sarnians. It is said that he can only be killed by another Sarnian, but alas, there isn't anybody left apart from himself. Out of all his abilities, what makes him so strong is his unique healing power. Despite it being quite slow compared to others, both his regeneration factor and immortality are linked to the Sarnian race. Lobo is healed from some incredible injuries, and he has the ability to regenerate his entire body from a pool of his own blood. With the ability to regenerate his entire body from a single cell, Lobo can effectively create clones of himself by using only a single drop of his blood. This means that he has the potential to create millions of copies of himself, which can make him a pretty strong opponent to go against. In addition to this, Lobo's ability to regenerate simply indicates that he is functionally immortal, as he can always regenerate from even the smallest remaining piece of his body. This makes him a truly frightening force in the DC universe, making him nearly impossible to kill. Does Lobo use some deadly weapons? We already know that Lobo can only be destroyed by another Sarnian, and that itself is one of the strongest flex of all. But apart from this, he is also an expert combatant with a vast array of weaponry. Lobo holds extreme proficiency in using various weapons with great accuracy and is skilled in improvising during combat situations. His weaponry skill allows him to defeat even the most powerful opponents. He has access to many modern firearms along with several explosives, but his favorite one is probably the hook on a chain. His other weapons include swords, axes, and even a traditional traditional melee that he uses brutally during combats. With these weapons, Lobo strikes his opponents so mercilessly that even the greatest heroes drip a sweat against the dangerous anti-hero. One of the other weapons of this bounty hunter is a Space Hog motorcycle that Lobo rides in almost all his appearances. Modeled after Hell's Angels, it carries various different weapons ranging from machine guns to missiles. Quite impressive, isn't it? It's not all weapons though. The Space Hog motorcycle also has the ability to travel quite fast with a speed of up to 60 miles per hour. It is so unique that this weapon-carrying motorcycle has become one of the iconic traits of Lobo. Is Lobo immortal? As a member of the alien race Sarnians, Lobo possesses unique physiology that makes him functionally immortal, meaning he cannot die of old age or disease. As he has been banned from both heaven and hell, he can only be killed by another Zarnian. However, as discussed earlier, he killed everyone of his own kind, so he stands alone himself where nothing can eliminate him. His abilities, such as Toon Force, make him invulnerable to any gun or weapon attacks. He's even immune to chemical substances, so he cannot be easily taken down even with such attacks. Lobo's immortality allows him to live without food, water, or oxygen, making him pretty self-sustaining. How can Lobo be defeated? One potential weakness for Lobo is his overconfidence and tendency to underestimate his opponents. His arrogance and unwillingness to work in a team also make him difficult to get along with, as evidenced during his time in the Legion. Additionally, since he has been banned from entering both heaven and hell, there may be ways to exploit this in a battle with him. Another possible weakness is his dependence on his bike, the Space Hog. If his bike were to be destroyed or disabled, it could limit his mobility and make him vulnerable to attack. As discussed earlier, Lobo has a firm moral code and is strict to his word. He will always honor a contract even if it puts him in danger, which can also be used against him in combat while leaving him vulnerable to being deceived or manipulated by others who exploit his sense of honor. Despite his best abilities, many heroes can defeat him to some extent, starting with Superman, who might be able to leave Lobo on the sun, which could be physically damaging to him. Though he is completely banned from the afterlife, his soul could be destroyed, and there's a slight scope of possibility that Ghost Rider could do so. Ant-Man holds the ability to trap and leave him in the quantum realm, but he isn't the only one, as Doctor Strange could also damage his reality or simply telepathically send him some. Many possibilities like this exist, but ultimately he could be defeated if not killed. How Lobo gave some of his arch rivals a tough time because of his powers. Lobo's powers have made him a powerful opponent for many of his arch rivals, but some are most notable and they stand out the most. So let's take a peek. Starting with, in the Draga arc, Lobo entered where he overheard a conversation between two aliens discussing the upcoming battle between Superman and Draga. They were even taking bets on who would win the battle. Lobo, being the overconfident character that he is, joined in the conversation and claimed that he could easily defeat Superman without any difficulty. Intoxicated, Lobo went to the Fortress of Solitude to confront Superman and settle the score once and for all. However, the outcome of the battle did not turn out to be in Lobo's favor, as Superman resorted to faking his own death to evade further conflict with the Zarnian bounty hunter. I mean, you gotta feel really badass after Superman fled from you, right? Moving on to Justice League's Hereafter episode, which featured the oldest son of Darkseid, Kalibak, who created Absolute Menace in Metropolis, but he was ultimately stopped by Lobo. In the second episode of the battle, Lobo managed to throw him like a pillow, which led to Kalibak giving up in humiliation. There was a storyline in the comics where the Easter Bunny hired Lobo to kill Kris Kringle, and another one where he engaged in a battle with the Mask. The Mask is mostly known for the 1994 film adaptation, which featured the iconic Jim Carrey. But did you know that the character was originally introduced in comic books in the early 90s? Throughout the two-part series that came out in 1997, Mask and Lobo faced each other throughout the course of events. When the Mask and Lobo collided, the consequences were dire, resulting in the destruction of Manhattan and even an entire solar system. Despite the catastrophic aftermath, the comic book crossover Lobo/Mask has gained quite some popularity among comic book readers. The series is admired for its clever and mind-bending storyline that left the readers pondering long after the final page. And with that, we come to the very end of the video. Lobo has become an incredibly popular character among the comic book fans, particularly those who enjoy anti-heroes and over-the-top action and violence. The character has gained a cult following due to his irreverent attitude, outlandish appearance, and ruthless approach during combat. Fans love Lobo's exaggerated strength, his use of absurd weaponry, and his tendency to do whatever he wants to achieve his goals. The hype surrounding Lobo is a testament to the enduring appeal of all anti-hero characters, so it is safe to say that Lobo has to be one of the best and most iconic rogues of all time. Do smash the like button if you enjoyed this video, and we will see you at the next one.